If you're listening on podcast, be sure to tune in to our YouTube channel for more content. The link is in the description.
Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast. Welcome back to Wild and Weird Radio, everybody. We have a fun little show planned for you. And as you can notice, this week's episode is just a hair different because Jessi is actually
Chasing monsters
on an investigation right now. So cannot wait to hear what they've got going on down there. I know it's interesting. We know a little bit about what's already going on, but we're going to let them share that with you. Remember, before you go any further, to like, share, and subscribe. So smack that notification bell as well. That way, anytime we have some kind of update or show to release, you will be notified immediately through push notifications because, you know, that is how the internet do these days.
It do.
Now, this week was pretty cool. We've got a little news update for you that is kind of not your average news update because we were on the road.
We were on the road, but before you get into that, Joe, what's coming up here in just the next week or two here?
Oh, well, by the time you guys listen to this episode, next weekend will be Wild and Weird Con. So you definitely want to make your way out to Chief Logan Park. We're going to be at the Lodge. It's 1000 Conference Center Drive at Logan, West Virginia. You definitely want to get down there and check it out for $10. You get in the door, plus you get to go to all the workshops, all the speakers, meet the speakers, go into the vendor hall. We're also having a costume contest where we're giving away $100 in vendor bucks, where you can go spend $100 with a vendor of your choice. Then there's going to be a really cool trophy as well. So you want to carry that home with you.
That's right. We have several people who have donated prizes for the door prize giveaway. It's going to be a lot of fun this time. I mean, just an amazing good time. It's good to see people stepping up this time and actually helping us out with it.
It is, yeah.
Because this is a first for us. The last time, we did it all.
We put it all together ourselves. All the gifts were made by us.
Yeah.
we take that back. Heather from down there in I think she's from Mingo County. Heather Little. She was the only vendor that actually helped us get some stuff to give away to folks.
But to be fair, we didn't really ask.
Yeah, we didn't. She volunteered.
So this year we actually put out a little, if you want to help sponsor, and we've been getting people stepping up. Which is wonderful, guys. Absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much for helping to make this stuff happen. There's a lot going on right now, and even more stuff that we are getting ready to announce. So please stay tuned to that. But as Joe said, we had some fun this weekend.
That's exactly right. We actually had a really good time. It was a first-time event here in West Virginia. They called it Mysticon, and it was sponsored by the Jackson County Library. It was in Ravenswood, West Virginia, and we had a blast. We had a good time, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to let Jocelyn go ahead and tell you in her own words about this event.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. I'm the adult programmer here at the Ravenswood Library. We're all just really into the paranormal and cryptids and all that fun stuff. So we really wanted to get everyone else interested and bring more people out to our library. A lot of people don't understand all the programs and events and things that we do here, mostly free for everybody. So yeah, we're just really excited to get this going, and hopefully it'll be an annual event. We have tons of vendors and speakers, and a food truck and stuff for the kids, and it's been really great.
Yeah, the turnout's been really good so far. It's awesome to see something like this going on here in this little town, because for the most part, these small towns here in West Virginia don't have a whole lot going on in them, and it's great seeing other people take on the mantle for paratourism and promote their strange happenings in their little town.
Yeah, we're so pumped about the turnout for today. We are a full house, and it was great. We expected it, because a lot of people really like this stuff, and we don't have this kind of stuff going on in our small town. I think this is probably the first event dealing with the paranormal and cryptids and everything that Ravenswood has had. So we are really looking forward to doing this every year and getting more and more people, more and more speakers and vendors, and just everything. It's been really great.
So, Ron, I can't wait till next year.
Yeah, it was fun, and like we told them, great job. Believe me, when we say it's a great job, it was a great job, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are going to see your event that probably didn't see it, because we're going to be talking about it for a very long time.
Yeah,
it was good. It was very successful, and it was a great start.
We're invited to come up there and do an investigation, because this location was also home of the last public execution in West Virginia. And
it was near there. Yeah, it was right down the road.
Yeah, it was right next door. It's where it took place. Yeah. And the area is weird.
Well, Dave has already, as soon as I got back, Dave Roberts, I contacted, told him what happened. And for those who weren't there, what had happened is we had some of our equipment there on display, just to, to show the public and whatnot. We had some.
Well, just tell them what equipment we had out. And so, okay. Because we had our equipment out, but specifically.
Okay, we had a K2, we had a Mel meter, we had two tri-field meters, we had a REM pod, and we had what else did we have? The radiation, the Geiger counter with the dosimeter.
And the Arduino, the little sound Arduino.
Oh, the sound detector. Yeah, we had the little sound detector there. So anyway, at several points in this show, whenever we would say ghost, and I kid you not, when we would say ghost, or when someone else would say ghost that was at the table,
or if they'd ask if it was haunted,
or if something to that,
something
effects.
Related to that whole genre.
Yeah. Then the REM pod would go off, the K2 would go off, and we would pick up, guess what? Radiation.
Low levels of radiation.
Yeah, it would go up again. And at one point, Maria was watching it, and that's when we were doing our lecture, and there was I think Jocelyn was at the table, and they were talking, and she said the K2 went to red, and the REM pod went up, and the radiation detector went up again to that magical number of 36, which she thought it was 35, but when I went back and looked at the log on it, it was 36.
That was the high for the day. And on top of that, the computer that we were using for our presentation decided that it was going to flip out and crash.
No, even better. When we had, at one point, we were interviewing one of the fans who was listening to the show, who had listened to the show, forever. And we're like, okay, can we record that? So we had our P4 there. And we had not only the P4, we had the H5 in case, we needed it.
Yeah.
We have a backup, because that's what one typically does.
That's what we do. We try to make sure we have backups to our backups.
So while we were conducting this interview, the P4 just completely bottomed out and died. Gave me a low battery warning and died. Now, the P4 had just had fresh batteries in it, because we had it at Mothman just a couple of weeks ago. And this thing has like an 8-hour record time. It's ridiculous. It'll last forever. This happened when the K2, again, was going off, and the REM pod was going off. To make things even better, at the same time, Joe says, well, it's okay, grab the H5. We're going to grab it with the H5, and we'll plug the mic into it. And so we did. And as soon as we plugged the mic into the H5, what happened, Joe?
It took a dump on us. And brand new batteries. I just put them in the night before and fired it up. It stayed on long enough for us to plug an XLR into the bottom, and then off it went, and then couldn't get it to turn back on. Now I put fresh batteries in it as soon as I got home again, and it works just fine.
Yeah. So here's my thing with that. Again, if this would have been a single incident where it was just one thing there, I could write that off. But when we had hits across the EM spectrum, the gamma and beta spectrum, and I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what to even say about that because this was one of those incidents.
Yeah, it really was. It was just extremely bizarre. What exactly to say about it, we don't know.
No,
it
no,
was interesting.
It was crazy.
That, anybody who's been following us for any amount of time, that when it comes to teaching people how stuff works, that is one of our MOs. We will always take time to teach you something that we, or anything really, that we can, especially when it comes to the equipment and how it's used. And one of the groups of people that we often find ourselves working with more than anyone, it seems, are kids. We work with a lot of kids, and we had a ton of kids coming up to the table, and they were asking about the equipment and wondering how it worked. And then they got to see and witness the weird anomalies, and they were like, whoa, wait, why is it going off? I'm not touching it. Because we would show them how, like, when you got close to the REM pod, once you got within a certain field, it would start going bonkers. And then the kids would be standing there, like, talking to us, like, okay, wait, why is that going off? Why is that? Is that a ghost? Does that mean there's a ghost? And it was so fun watching their faces.
It was something. I mean, I don't know what that was, but it falls into the line of paranormal, in my opinion. I mean, I couldn't explain it. So,
well, we've been asked to go and investigate. So
let's hope let's hope you guys are serious about that and have us come down, because we're going to bring so much equipment. So much equipment, and we do have other members of the collective who can come in as well.
Yeah.
So we can do a full-on investigation and really cover that entire place.
Yep, cannot wait. It's going to be fun.
So we got to talk a little bit about Bigfoot.
Yeah, we did. That's what our presentation was about, and it was really a lot similar to what the last few episodes of Wild and Weird's been on, where we talked about these strange anomalies, as well as the fact that there does seem to be a flesh and blood creature out there, but there's also a lot more going on, and we did cover all that full spectrum.
We did, and we got to hear a lot of accounts of people who had seen things as well.
And it was really good because we also had evidence presented to us by people who are local there, and they've asked us to come check things out and investigate. So I can't wait to get out there and go see this new property in this new area that we haven't been in yet.
Absolutely. We have so much stuff getting ready to come up. We're actually trying to get together and get up to Travis's as well. Up at Deep End. We want to make that happen soon. And isn't there like a potluck or something coming up here?
There's a paranormal potluck that we're going to be a part of. And anybody that knows us knows that we contributed to a cookbook, and that I'm a chef. So you're going to be able to get that cookbook there at that event, as well as come try some of our food. It's going to be there in St. Albans. So if you're local to the West Virginia area, it's just a little get together one evening. It's the local paranormal discussion group. I actually went there this past week and spoke on Bigfoot as well. And it's
what they're doing down there is absolutely fun.
I mean, really is.
It is really fun. I got to speak at the second one that they had, and I said, "Hey, let's go down and give it a shot." So me and Dave went down and did that.
Yep.
And you couldn't make it because
I couldn't make it because babies.
And then they wanted to get you scheduled in, so we finally got you in there.
Yeah.
But man, what a great thing they're doing. It's just a lot of fun to go down and actually talk and talk to people who have the similar ideas and ideologies, and just throw ideas on the table. It's so much fun.
It really is. It's a good time. I can't wait to get down there and hang out with them all again, because now at this point, just about half of the folks who do attend these local meetings are members of the collective.
Yeah.
So we get to go hang out with folks who are already part of the team and just have a good time. So
and share some data. Yeah, that's the greatest.
It's
part.
awesome.
So I think that pretty much covers everything on our end, right? As what we've done here lately, because there's a lot.
There is a lot.
There is a lot.
I think that wraps up the news segment and update segment from us. So
yeah, I think so.
Let's go ahead.
What is the topic tonight, my friend?
We're taking a bit of a dark dive.
Oh, don't do that. She'll sue us. Jessi, I didn't have nothing to do with that.
We're taking a deep dive into something that we've been meaning to touch on for a long time, and we've briefly spoke about it here and there on various episodes. But we're going to be covering deep underground military bases, also known as DUMBs.
I know some DUMBs.
Right? Me too.
There's nothing to do with bases. I'm just saying. I know some DUMBs. You know, it's just DUMBs, as in.
And what we're talking about here with deep underground military bases, obviously, the world knows that we do have military installations that are underground.
Mm-hmm.
Cheyenne Mountain is probably the most notable one that everybody recognizes. And then here in West Virginia, we have two.
Mm-hmm.
And those are public knowledge. They weren't public knowledge for the longest time, but they are now. There's one up at Kingwood, West Virginia, and there's one on the way to Beckley. You'll drive by it. It's the old Memorial Tunnel. It was transitioned. It used to be a tunnel you could drive through, but when they upgraded the interstate system, they made a new tunnel, and the old tunnel was decommissioned, but the structure was still in great shape, so they just used it as a military training facility.
Yeah, I actually did some, I believe, some training in there after 9/11, anti-terrorist training and whatnot, and they were going to rent it out at one point to movie studios, I think, if I remember correctly, and
they
make
have
sets in there.
Because what it was, I had been in it. It was being used for anti-terrorism whenever I was enlisted. So I got to go in at one time, and it was neat. It was like a movie set. So that it'd have been perfect for it. But now it's actually rented out. A portion of it, anyway, is rented out to a mushroom farm,
which is great.
And the rest of it is now an IT farm. So you got half of it that is the state IT farm for all of the major servers and everything. The other side is a mushroom farm.
Mushroom farm. Yeah. I mean, that's great.
This structure, by the way, like just to give you a scope, you're hearing that like, well, how big is this place? It's a mile long. The tunnel's a mile long, and there's just a small section on each end that is being used, and it's hard to tell what's in the middle.
It really is. And, like you said, there's so many of them. In Wikipedia, just a quick search will tell you they think there's more than 10,000 underground bases. And, some of those are the old missile silos and whatnot that were built and so forth. But there are other ones, like Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, for example.
Yep.
A huge section of it is allegedly underground.
And the same thing.
Yes.
Area 51, Groom Lake.
Sure. And one can see where these patterns go. But there are a lot of these things. And like you had said, there's Cheyenne Mountain, of course. And that is Raven Rock. Cheyenne was made popular in, I think War Games made it popular first, and then Stargate.
War Games made it popular, but I don't think it made it as popular as what Stargate did.
Stargate made it absolutely famous.
Yeah, Stargate SG-1 was the longest running sci-fi TV show in history, and it literally every week you were in Cheyenne Mountain. So it really drove it home.
The fact that they let them actually portray Cheyenne Mountain as Stargate Command is just still. I mean, I think that lended to the credibility of the whole show anyway. But I really liked it. I thought that was a really cool thing. And again, there's that alien connotation, isn't there?
Yeah.
As we shall see, that becomes something of the legend that is associated with these places.
It really is. And
you got stuff underground. I mean, think about it, I guess, right? Like you said, there's Ravens Rock. And, these are all close by, really, relatively close by. A lot of these were very close by to us because they were close to D.C.
Yep.
So, Ravens Rock was another really good one. That was built pretty much during the Cold War, if I remember correctly.
It was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And around that same time, West Virginia was also home to another underground military installation that linked the White House and the D.C. area to the Greenbrier complex.
Greek Island. Project Greek. Yep. And that was really, how everyone says, well, the government, people can't keep a secret, right? That long. Man, Greek Island was secret for decades.
It was.
People saw this stuff being built and they kept their mouths shut. There's are stories of people. Oh yeah, I was there when they were bringing these trucks in and they had these massive doors on them, big blast doors. Well, what did you do? Did you tell anyone? Nope. No, because back then, it was patriotic. You kept your mouth shut.
It was, and this was national security kind of stuff. It was the presidential security, and there have been rumors as well here where we're at about there being underground installations at Green Bank as well.
No, I personally have never heard that, but it would not surprise me just because of the sheer fact of that is a huge facility. That is a very huge facility. And I don't think people even understand how big it is. When they hear Greenbank, they think, it's just a bunch of satellite dishes.
It's a town.
It's a satellite dishes, all right. But how many satellite dishes there are? I mean, there are tons of these things out there, and they're not close together. They're spread out over a massive section. Like you said, it's a small town out there. It's a base. Yep. And, what better place? You go out there, you got no signal, by the way.
Yeah, no cell phone signal. You're not even allowed to turn your cell phones on.
They won't work. There's no point.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've got the perfect place when you're talking about West Virginia to hide these kind of secrets too. So
you do.
There's always been this thought to me that some of these state parks around here, what better place to put stuff?
You're not wrong.
Oh no, absolutely not. And I just think that that's pretty common. I mean, we saw that out west with some of the missile silos and whatnot. Those were all near areas like that too. But one of the weird things that I thought was that I was looking at on here, I was going through. We of course talked about Mount Weather. Mount Weather was in the 1800s. Actually, it was a weather station, and it got turned into this huge complex after World War II. Training ground. It was created in 1980s into the training ground, and the Department of Homeland Security started running sub-training facility testing in there, kind of like what we were talking about with the tunnel. They're kind of doing the same kind of thing there, except for this was a little bit more complex. But Mount Weather is where they were. It's for the what's it called? Continuity of government, right? So the Department of Homeland Security had run a sub-training facility, and it had served as an operations center, housing the high level of government officials during emergency times. And this was actually put into play, Joe, back during the 9/11 attacks when they took Vice President Dick Cheney and sent him out to Mount Weather at that point.
Yeah.
The other part about the whole thing is, I don't know if anyone knows this, but most people don't, unless you really have this, you care to know about, I guess, these secret bases or the reality of the secret bases. Because when we talk about secret bases, there are secret bases and then there are alleged secret bases, okay? But these are the real parts of the legends. The funny thing is about Mount Weather is no one knew about it until 1974 when there was a plane crash. And when the reporters went in there to report on it, they were warned off the area. So a little bit of digging revealed that this was actually, a very high level secret security site. And that's how that kind of went up. I thought one of the weird things that I had found, though, was a place called, it was in the Marshall Islands. It's called Kwajalein Atoll. Now, have you heard of that one yet?
I have, yes.
Okay.
That there was something about that actually rolled over. I think it was sometime in the last year. There had been a report that was put over on the talk page.
Do you know why that was significant?
UFOs.
Better yet, the U.S. Space Force will turn on a new and improved radar system as early as this month. This was from 2021, I believe. That's designed to track small objects in space. It's called the Space Fence. It is built on a remote island in the South Pacific and will allow military to keep an eye on thousands of objects orbiting Earth up to 22,000 miles from the surface of our planet.
Yeah, I mean, how? Tell me. I understand that the guise of it is like asteroids and space.
Yeah, and satellites,
at the time it was commissioned, with everything else that was going on, UFOs.
Yep, I'm with you. I mean, it kind of lends right up there to it, doesn't it? I mean, the space fence. Think about that. Even the name, the space fence.
Yep.
I mean, what are you fencing out? There's no galactic cows. I don't know. Anyway,
I mean, that might be why there's cattle mutilations.
Actually, we're going to get into that.
Oh, I know. It's one of my favorite underground military installations.
You're going there, aren't you?
Oh yes.
Okay, so let's go into the conspiracy theory section now, because we talked about.
Yeah, we've given you enough facts.
Yeah,
I want to talk about the fun stuff.
Here's the fun stuff. So go ahead.
Dulce,
New Mexico.
Yeah, Dulce, New Mexico. It's apparently it's rumored to be the site of a absolutely brutal human and alien war. It's also rumored to be in the underground military installation there that you've got human and animal hybrids, so chimera creatures cruising around there. And if you are into the conspiracy field and into listening to shows like Coast to Coast, which if you're listening to Wild Weird Radio,
you probably have listened to Coast to Coast.
I'm assuming you have listened to Coast to Coast. You know of things like sophisticated aircraft and UFOs being seen in Dulce a lot. And rumors started all the way back in the 1930s. So this is big, because this predates the big date in UFO history for America, being in the mid 40s. So that 1947 date. This goes all the way to the early 1930s. That Dulce was a site, basically a black site. And it's hard to think back. We look back to the atomic war, the World War II, and we're looking at it and thinking that there are black sites at that point. Modern day, you're like, oh yeah, that's normal. You see the budget spending and all that stuff. But back then, we didn't have that kind of finances. And we're also just off the tails of a major world war, and ramping into another.
A major world war that could be at any point at that point, right? So they were all getting ready for this. It was time.
And so you had this site that was developed out there in Dulce, and it started. And the thing that gives, I think, Dulce the most credibility is that the key players that first started coming forward were retired policemen, retired state police, Gabriel Valdez.
Valdez, yes.
And then you've got another Anderson. I can't remember what his first name was, but he was a former police officer. Tim Anderson, that's his name.
Yes.
And another police officer, and he also believes that Bigfoot are also all around the Dulce
area. Yeah, on the Dulce area.
And he's not the only one that says that. But this is coming from what we would consider in the community credible sources. When we get reports, if we get a report that comes in from prior, and it's not saying that we disbelieve other reports coming in, okay? But when we get a report that comes in from prior service members or military, or not military, but police officers or EMS or even post office workers, those are government jobs that require you to be competent and require you to be on
high level
all the time. And if you screw up, you're fired.
Yep.
So this we take those reports with a little more credibility, because of they're also what we call trained observers. You're trained, they're taught. It's ingrained in them in their training every single year on observation and reporting. So they know how to observe and report. They take notes when these things happen. And we have two police officers who are claiming that they're seeing these UFOs coming up out of the ground, as well as sophisticated aircraft that look like our toys that don't necessarily have the whole UFO capacity, but it looks like extremely advanced aircraft that's man-made. And so it just starts to get wildly bizarre after that.
It got wildly even more bizarre because the Santa Fe News Mexican newspaper ran the story with Valdez, and his quote was, "The evidence that was left there, predators don't leave gas masks, glow sticks, radar chaff. They don't leave that stuff." So allegedly, he had found this stuff
around the cattle mutilation sites.
Yeah, around the cattle mutilation sites.
Yeah.
And he had said also that there were silent, sophisticated spacecraft. I believe, the purported black helicopter kind of phenomena that took place. But the weirdest part, Joe, the weirdest part of this was the discovery of a fetus inside of a dead cow.
Yep.
Not a calf fetus, Joe. It was a human monkey and a frog, like basically a hybrid type chimera thing, like you said. Yeah. Now, this gave, them ideas that they were using cows as a incubation chamber for these hybrid creatures.
And so these mutilations, when they took place, were being done almost as if a C-section was being performed to remove what was growing inside, because a lot of these cattle mutilations, if you remember the old episode that we covered this on, the craftsmanship was very precise. And lasers seemed to have been used because there was almost seemingly instant cauterization of some of the wounds as they were being made. And it goes even more beyond that, because after Valdez and after Anderson's reports come through, we now start getting leaks from another former government employee who is probably one of the most tragic stories out there, if I'm being honest, and that's Philip Schneider.
Yep.
And the whole incident that went down with him, he got out and he leaked some of his involvement. He was a former explosives engineer employed by the U.S. And he was allegedly going down into this deep underground section of an already underground base, came into contact with subterranean aliens and witnessed a battle that was going on with our armed forces and these aliens, in which this battle, his own hand was wounded to the point where he lost 2 of his fingers. And to further this,
he got a dose of radiation, I believe, too, right?
He did. He had a dose of radiation. But to further this, the wound on his hand was consistent with extremely hot impact, like something you would expect from a laser beam or a lightsaber, that kind of effect. Like it was hit and instantly cauterized, blew it off, gone. It just gets his story. He when he got out on the circuit, he became the one of the big names traveling around out there with Newfoundland on all their conferences, all these aliens, small TV appearances. And then sadly, he was at an event and they found him dead.
Yeah. Before he died, though, some of the stuff that he was saying, if you're not familiar with Schneider, I'm just going to read a couple of them.
Because go for it.
There's a massive list, and this is the most important.
Write a tome with some of the stuff he was talking about.
And I think that was done later on by another author that helped perpetuate this story, and we'll get into that too. But according to Schneider, he would go on to speak about these bases, and he claimed that the bases were run by joint human-alien, I guess, kind of partnership.
Forces?
Yeah.
Like a joint forces base, yeah.
Yeah, like a joint force, like a space force.
Yeah, Space Force.
Did I say that? I said that. So anyway, this Space Force, with the help of the aliens, was a result of they were trying to create basically a new world order. And we have to think back about this too, because if you remember as well as I do that after the Gulf War in the 90s, that was a term that got thrown around a lot. The New World Order.
Yeah, it was the NWO. It was
Mm-hmm.
this shady government organization that was operating within the government that was going to generate a one world rule.
Yeah, one world rule. And a lot of that comes from prophecy as well. I think they were trying to,
Yep.
They were trying to hype up the just how people are. They're doing the same thing today, man.
Yeah, you mix in religion and politics, and it just gets muddy.
Yeah. So before we go into all that, let's go into this. Anyway, the organization that he claimed that the bases were run by the joint human alien organizations, and that the Greys specifically were on Earth to establish a new world order. A large number of underground military bases had been built in the United States, up to 130. And he had helped with some of these constructions allegedly as well, as I recall. These were
he was one of the engineers.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And these were 2-kilometer deep bases in some of them, by the way.
They were cities. Being an engineer, he even went in depth on how they created these bases and how they drilled the tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
And allegedly that stuff didn't exist. And then like here in the last 2 to 3 years, they've started talking about how they have these boring drills that are like the size of, I don't know, 4 or 5 houses put together that just basically melt rock.
They're monster drills. Yeah.
But we have them.
We do now. Yes.
We have them.
Yeah, we do. And so these things are big. I mean, they were talking about things that are size of the cities that are buried, right? The bases are built in case of a declaration of war. Now, I don't think that he means a war with humans. I think that he's alluding a war of interplanetary origin.
That is how at least it seemed anyway.
It does seem that way, because also according to him, the Star Wars Defense Initiative, the SDI system, was built as a planetary defense mechanism against the Greys. Think about that for just a second. Planetary defense, space fence. I'm just saying. I mean, I can see where this stuff comes out.
I can too. And we often get this weird, especially in the media. We get this weird representation of the Greys, like they're like these cute little nice gray aliens, but you have all these mixed reviews coming from people who get abducted, where it's either like the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. There's no in between. In recent memory, oddly enough, that we're talking about the Greys invading. If you guys actually watch Resident Alien, holy crap, it's such a good TV show.
Agreed, 100%, and not just because Giorgio is occasionally on it.
Yeah, it's really well done. And the best part about it is they're following all the conspiracy theory stuff. They did their homework. I mean, the creators of the comic book did their homework, but this is the first time in the media that I can recall gray aliens being the bad guys.
Yep, I absolutely agree with you. I think that the Greys have up until this point been looked at as more of a non-confrontational being, superior, as in Thor and Stargate.
Yeah, I was going to say Thor and Stargate is a prime example. Like he was this non-interfere helper. Had
to basically beg the Asgardians to help.
Yeah,
and but this is taking a new turn, and it's kind of, what's really funny is it's kind of playing out to what we had said several times about the secret war and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I kind of enjoy it. I think it's really cool, but it's also what Schneider was saying. There was this secret war going on, and that the bases are all interconnected. They are interconnected by high-speed monorails on which the trains move at speeds of Mach 2, Joe.
Yeah, and which is that's fast. It's 2 times the speed of sound for anybody who's not familiar.
Yeah.
But that's not exactly unheard of, because if you have a magnetic rail system, you technically could do that with the right energy.
And that's what he says they are. They're magnetic cushion systems. Yeah. So he's got the answer for you right there on that. He also says that the secret plan of the High Greys is to establish on the planet a new world order managed by the UN, which they secretly control. Okay. The UFO problem was dealt with by an organization specifically created by the order of the U.S. government back in 1933. According to the research of this organization, in 1935, the presence of aliens on Earth became a recognized fact. Over the next 20 years, employees tried to find out the intentions of these space aliens and establish contact with them. This happened in 1954 on February 20th or 21st when President Dwight Eisenhower met with representatives of an alien civilization. We've talked about this before.
Yes.
So this is his spin on that story, basically. The first meeting was unsuccessful. The aliens refused to transfer any advanced technologies to Earthlings, represented by the Americans for some reason, but they demanded to stop the development of certain types of weapons. The aliens do not want us to develop certain types of weapons. I wonder why. The United States did not agree. Surprise. To
You
stop
mean
its
we can make
military
something
projects.
go boom and you're telling us no?
Yeah.
1776, baby.
Yeah, right. Of course, they could not vouch for the rest of the world. We said no, but they're saying that maybe the others would buy in. So the contacts continued, and as a result, a so-called treaty, was formed, and this is called the Greta Treaty. It was concluded, and the contract parties agreed upon the following: the aliens do not interfere in the affairs of Earthlings. Earthlings are represented by the U.S. government. Again, I don't know why. The Earthlings must keep the secret, the fact of the presence of the aliens on Earth. Aliens help in technical developments. This applies only to the American nation. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't. This I don't get.
Yeah.
Aliens can take people and animals for scientific purposes. People, after research, should come back, and memories of contact with aliens should be deleted from their memories. Gray aliens are employees of a powerful extraterrestrial civilization, the existence of which Earthlings had to face in the historical past. The presumptive basis of the alien ideologies is the unification of intelligent species of the universe into a single union, Borg, and regardless of the form of life itself, biological, ethereal, or other. Okay.
So they just covered all the extra dimensional.
They literally did. They literally did.
Covered all the bases here, and
yeah.
And this story, like Ron was mentioning, it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then we have all these other military bases that get linked into this, these underground military installations that are secret black ops bases, and they're crawling with reptilians and humans.
Oh, let's not leave out the reptilians.
Yeah, got to get onto the reptilians.
Well, I got a question for you, Joe. According to Schneider, it wasn't reptilians. It was the Greys.
It was the Greys. That's
so who promoted the reptilians and the draconians into this and made them the bad guys? I mean, who's the bad guy? Right. I don't know anymore. I don't know. Who's the
according
bad
to
guy.
Schneider too, the reptilians had always been here. They're the original
owners
inhabitants
of Earth
here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of went sideways for them, and now they're fighting. But you've got all of this stuff where it's all wrapped together, and it gets really convoluted, guys. And that's the hardest part about doing the research on this stuff, because you can literally spend weeks and never find the floor.
Good. You could spend your whole life looking into deep underground military bases and just keep finding rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. Or breadcrumb, I should say, after breadcrumb.
And it goes back to the whole lie sandwich thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's truth to a lot of it. And then there's fluff that gets added in that could be disinformation.
Oh, 100%.
And I mean, look at freaking Doty for that.
Oh, yeah. Richard
Doty was involved with Schneider.
Yep. Doty, that's another one. Yes.
And it gets really, really squirrely really, really quick, guys.
Yeah.
And it's easy to look at all this stuff and say, oh, they're just all nuts. They're all crazy. because it sounds just bonkers. At face value, all of this sounds absolutely bonkers. But the more moves our government makes with Space Force and with all these different integrated weapon systems and some of the advancements that we're seeing happen with warfare, and particularly on the, I guess we'll call it the disclosure front.
Yeah.
That this stuff is, a lot of it being the lie sandwich, I guess the sandwich part being taken apart, and a lot of the truth is being exposed.
The ingredients, the little pieces of the
you're starting to see the ingredients here, and it's starting. You're seeing where the lie sandwich came from, and when some of that stuff gets scraped away, it's like, oh crap, it didn't all go away. There's still some stuff there, and that was actually part of a government initiative. What? Are you serious? And we found these things out 50, 60 years later after the fact, that everybody's been called crazy and people committed suicide,
lost their jobs, had their families ripped apart, being killed, disappeared, all the above. And for what? A secret. I mean,
and like, what does, at that point, it's so far back, like, is there any kind of restitution that the government owes those families? Because now some of these things have been made out to be fact, and their entire lives were ruined because they said something.
Yeah. Well, look at the Cash Landrum example. That's a great example.
Yep.
They denied it. They took them to court. They thought they were going to win, but then they proved, oh well, the government, we don't have that kind of aircraft, so this is nothing. You get nothing for this, dude. Nothing. So that's the whole thing about this. We know now that is plausible.
Yeah.
I mean, lives were ruined. That's what I'm getting at. And I get it. There was a Cold War. I mean, I can buy that. But at what point do you come to this conclusion? Do you really think society's going to fall apart if they find out that there's aliens? I really don't think that's going to happen.
At this point, I don't think so.
At this point, it's just not going to happen. But it wasn't just Schneider who perpetuated this. And I remember reading back in the back of the UFO magazines. I would look from time to time, and there was this little blue book, and it was called, what was it called? Underground Alien Bases by Commander X. I don't know if you ever saw that, but the whole Commander
This was
X
actually Commander Zorb's first book.
Commander X is very interesting because Commander X is an individual who never revealed their actual name, although there was a book later on written that was supposed to identify Commander X, the alien hunter. And yes, Joe, that is a real thing.
Yeah, I know. That was what makes it even better.
Yep, that's where it came from. Hats off again to the resident alien folks. But yes, Commander X wrote a book in 2012. It made its rounds and published by the Interlight Global Communications. It painted a picture of a secret alien invasion and war in which aliens had established multiple bases underground around the planet. They had utilized ancient tunnel systems that had been built in the times before Atlantis, and that a secret party existed within the government that had sided with the aliens to create a new world order. The author claims some of these bases were in areas such as Mount Shasta, Brown Mountain, Dulce, New Mexico, Groom Lake, Nevada, the Superstition Mountains, Phoenix, Arizona, south in the North Poles, as well as in the mountains of the Andes and the jungles of Brazil. And Commander X continued to write on these controversial and conspiracy theory inspired subjects, such as free energy, mind control, the Philadelphia experiments. The list goes on. There is a massive, massive library that this guy wrote on. It's all conspiracy stuff. No one really knows who he was. There's theories as to who he was, but no one really knows the guy's name. My question is, was he a sort of a Doty type character?
And it's very plausible that he could have been. Because Richard Doty was a disinformationist being paid by the government to go in and give misinformation to contactees and experiencers. and then later came forward
and said, "Hey,"
and told everybody that he was, and then he's now, it's kind of he's infamous, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But he's
that's
now
how characters are, man.
Yeah,
You don't know who's telling the truth.
For lack of a better term, now he's kind of, I guess you'd say, on our side.
Yeah.
Like he pulled a Hynek, a J. Allen Hynek, I guess is what he was doing, because Hynek did the same thing. J. Allen Hynek was nope, swamp gas, owls, swamp gas.
No, he just realized that he was being not really manipulated, but he realized that there was really something to this, and that the government was at that point using him to discredit these people, and he didn't think it was right.
And to a degree, that's what Doty did. Doty didn't know anything about UFOs, aliens, or anything. He just said, "Here's your paycheck, go do this." So he did it.
The point is, right now we don't know what real and fake is, and we see that even more now than we ever have, especially with some of these AI systems. The whole you saw this mess. I mean, and it still continues. Now the same program has generated images that are allegedly from Neptune or some name your planet. It doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah.
And people are believing it. They believe that this is a secret base that's on another planet, etc. It's not real. It's not real. But this is what we are dealing with. So are these type people still around, Joe? That's the question. We know that disclosure is here. It's here. It isn't like it's going to happen tomorrow. It happened. We live in a post-disclosure world at this point, as far as I'm concerned. We know that there's something there. We don't know what it is, but we know that there's something there. And it really comes down to the camps of, well, if you want to believe it, believe it. If you don't, it doesn't really matter. And I think that that's what it's come down to. I don't know. I don't see a reason for these type things anymore, unless people like Schneider and Commander X are right about this, this secret war that's going on in between humanity and these alien forces. And then we have to look at it. Well, hasn't there been a secret war going on forever between aliens and a human species? They just called it something different and labeled it differently.
Yeah, I mean, ancient astronaut theorists would say yes.
Yes.
So, we've got tales of this going all the way back into recorded time that mention these appearances of good and bad. And it crosses religions, it crosses continents. And it does seem to be, especially now, India is probably one of the most the most complex. Their stories are very descriptive, as well as China, but India is much more in depth of a war.
Yeah.
The
Mahabharata records that there was a war, not just a war. It almost sounds like they're describing a nuclear war.
It does, and that these Vimana were just destroying, like with thermal weapons.
Yeah, massive thermal weapons with radiation. I mean, just amazing stuff. And that's where a lot of these, these theories do come from. So it makes you wonder. It really makes you wonder. And then we hear these stories about they're finding stuff in, around was it the North Pole and the South Pole, and there's Antarctica. There's these tunnels that are there, and people swearing that there's these massive bases underground that are lit, and who knows? I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's real, and I'm not going to tell you it's not at this point. That's not.
It's too hard to really say one way or the other.
Yeah, I think it's what you said. There's a little truth in there. There's a little bit of truth in there, and then the absurdity masks that truth so well that no one in their right mind would believe it.
Well, speaking of absurd, let's go one more step down into conspiracy land here and tackle some of the deep underground moon installations.
Oh, yeah, let's go to the moon. Well, there is no dark side of the moon.
Dinosaurs, and moon space aliens.
And I referenced that little Pink Floyd skit because if you've ever seen the one of the posters, I'll have to find it and put it on here, and that's what it's kind of alluding to, that there's a base on the moon. So this is something that's gone on for a very long time.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, it really has, and it was made a case was even stronger made for it whenever there was an asteroid impact on the moon and it rang like a bell.
I remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And that could be chalked up to a few different things. I don't know what the geologic makeup is of the moon, but there are stones here on Earth that we can strike with another stone, and it does sound like a bell, and it rings.
That's true. Yes, there is.
And the stone's not hollow. It's just it's a solid piece of, I think it's a form of granite, and but you can strike it, and it will ring like a bell. Mm-hmm. So the moon could be made up of similar material, but
could be.
For the sake of this conversation,
it could be a Death Star, right? That's no moon.
That's no moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all these rumors and conspiracy theories that wrap around the moon having military installations full of aliens that are ready to attack us. There's also the ones that are the more entertaining ones to me anyway, that involve Nazis and dinosaurs and aliens and reptilians.
Man, you can't go wrong with that lineup right there.
I know, right?
Because that's just a comic book.
Right. And that it basically, the Nazis made a deal with the reptilians back during World War II, and the Third Reich was carted off to the moon. And they have the new Third Reich is what is thriving on the moon, and we're watching it every single night circle around our planet as they grow their forces to conquer us.
Okay. Man.
But no, for real though, moon. There's been a ton of alleged reports revolving around the moon having a base on it, and not just on it, but in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that like a lie sandwich too, or is that just like conspiracy land? Because it's really, really hard to say.
I mean, we hear the same thing about Mars.
I was going to say, they say it about other planets too. Mars, allegedly, you got the people who've done these 20 and backs on their abductions.
They are rough.
Yeah.
No, I don't
gone to other planets and said that there were, underground installations on those to help survive against the harsh atmosphere. So they just basically had a ship that could sustain life that was underneath the ground, basically, for lack of a better term. They just made a life hub. And with these photos from Mars and some of the photos that you've seen from the moon, they do look like doors. And it looks like there's some crash landings here and there. Stuff should have got shot down.
I mean, who's to say, right? We do know this. Avi Loeb right now is looking for technosignatures, and I love his new definition of technosignatures. It doesn't mean, just as a crashed spaceship. It means that it could be the remnants of basically an intergalactic war that happened thousands of years ago, floating around our planet. He even speculates that some of the asteroids and some of the meteoroids that have actually hit Earth may in fact be pieces of an ancient spacecraft that was lost in some of these battles, dude. And I mean, that's science fiction to a lot of people who are hearing this. I get it. I mean, that's heavy stuff. That's sci-fi. But what if?
Yeah.
Just what if? I mean, let's look at some of the ancient legends for a second.
So much of them are metal.
Yes.
So much of it is not, and it's not just like a raw iron at all. Like it is very, very much straight off the cuff a hunk of metal.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't recognize a piece of, I don't know, any of those. We take an aircraft carrier, throw it into space. If it comes burning through the atmosphere, what are you going to recognize from that? I mean, it's just going to be a piece of charred metal, melted.
Yeah. This, for example.
Oh yeah, there you go. You're probably holding like one of my ancient, generation ships there that brought my people here 10,000 years ago.
It's a solid little piece of metal.
And that's a joke, but it's not a joke, because that's exactly what some of these ancient legends talked about.
It really is. They mention these encounters and these large serpents that flew across the sky and brought with them destruction. And some of these pieces, before they struck the earth, it's hard to tell what kind of shape they would have been in.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't really know. And, he is going on the expedition. Allegedly, it is funded at this point. So next year, he is going out there and he is going to look for that one particular piece. The thing that really strikes me on that story, Joe, is the fact that somehow they were tracking that piece.
Yeah.
They knew where that piece went. How did they know?
Yeah, you'd have to have some kind of a signature of a metal, maybe some kind of a meta material.
Well, you would need a meta material to be able to find a meta material. It's kind of like you'd have to have a meta material detector.
Right.
Wow.
Some sort of net or fence around the planet that
maybe
has the ability to track this thing.
I don't know if any such thing could ever possibly exist or have been mentioned anywhere. I'm just saying.
Who knows, right?
But that's the problem with conspiracy theories. It's easy to read into them. It's easy to fall into them and say, oh my God, this is 100% right. Add a little bit of stress from today and the past 3 or 4 years, and you've got a perfect ingredient for a massive, not only a lie sandwich, it's a smorgasbord.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can make them believe anything at this point.
You really, really could easily.
So where a lot of these actual, bases came from, though, man, they had a serious beginning. A lot of these things were built, during the Cold War. They were built as refuge, for the continuity of our governments. The United States and Canada, the emergency government headquarters. There were plans that were made to use existing buildings with sturdy below ground level basements and makeshift fallout shelters. There was actually, I think it was 1961, under the direction of Stuart L. Pittman, the federal government started the Community Fallout Shelter Program. So that's where it really began. It was in 61. And that's when a letter from President Kennedy advising the use of fallout shelters appeared in the September 1961 issue of Life magazine. Over the period of 1961 to 63, there was a growth in home fallout shelters, but eventually there was a public backlash against the whole thing, being a consumer product. Now, what's interesting is there is still a lot of fallout shelters being built today. I think Atlas Shelters still builds them or something.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it all started as that. That's where a lot of these went to, because after the Cold War kind of filtered away, some of these bases they became other things, or these fallout shelters became other things.
I would love to have a fallout shelter that would just be like, I don't know, the Wild and Weird Studio.
I always wanted one. Yeah, I always wanted one. I always wanted to go into the garage and dig straight back into the mountain here, because I could go back probably a good 100 feet. My neighbors would not know.
No,
I was underground. They wouldn't know, right? So
they have no clue.
They'd have no clue.
And I didn't. Deep in that point of the mountain that you're on, you wouldn't hit anything.
Have our own little basic Cheyenne Mountain going on right there. That'd be awesome. Just tunnel back through there. But yeah, man. I mean, we know that they did this stuff. I mean, what was that one project I told you about that they were using to use nukes to dig holes? That they played with this stuff. Why would you use a nuke to dig a hole? What are you going to build down there? Like Area 51 is basically built out of that. Project Plowshare. That was the name of it.
Yep, Plowshare.
Project Plowshare.
And it removes a ton of material real fast.
Oh yeah, real fast. It's radioactive, but what's that matter? But one of the weirdest things about the whole fallout shelters I was looking at, though, there was a actual school built. I don't know if you know this or not. Interestingly enough, it was in New Mexico. It was in Artesia, New Mexico. It was the first public school in the United States that was constructed entirely underground. It was equipped to function as an advanced fallout shelter. And when I say advanced fallout shelter, this thing was designed and completed in 1962. It had a concrete slab roof, which doubled as the playground, the school's playground. Okay. It contained a large storage facility with room for emergency rations and supplies for up to 2,160 people.
Wow.
Yeah, it was eventually shut down. It was, I think, it listed on the National Register of Historic Places, 1999. But it was eventually shut down due to this thing about, well, only I think 2,000 people could get in or something, and they were afraid that it was too stressful for the kids because if there was a war, then their parents and probably wouldn't be there.
Yeah,
I
their
mean,
parents would be on
this,
the outside.
yeah, this
I mean,
is how it works, though.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't understand that because it's a
I mean, we got
perfectly
video games about that called Fallout.
Fallout. Yeah, that's
And
Fallout for you.
yeah, it is. Well, Vault Dwellers, sorry, we've reached our limit. The door's shutting. Bye, everybody.
No, for real. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that they had a shelter this big that they actually shut down because it made the kids too stressed during the Cold War.
Yeah.
During the Cold War. This was a time for you people who know now, but you didn't know for a while. But there was this time when we literally thought that we would be incinerated overnight at one time.
Yeah.
And that was a very real thing.
I mean, we
So
were still doing duck and cover drills whenever I was in kindergarten and first grade.
well, they called them something else then, didn't they?
Yeah, just like safety drills.
Yeah, safety drills. They got turned into tornado drills, I
Tornado
think.
drills, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's always been the same
It was
thing.
just duck and cover it, so that
Duck
way they
and
could find
cover.
your body easier.
Yeah. Well, what's left of it,
Right?
charred remains, shadows on the ground.
Well, they're funny. Okay, this is crazy, right? I remember vividly, and this gave me just nightmares for a long time. Because here I am. I'm in fifth grade, or not fifth grade. Sorry, kindergarten. I'm 5 years old. That's where the 5 came from. I'm 5 years old, and we're being told in the gymnasium, we're being taught how to duck and cover, but then we're being told that if we're outside and there happens to be a nuclear explosion, like literally, this is what we're told. If a bomb goes off, that we can jump down in a ditch, and as long as that ditch goes below the surface area, the ground there, that the blast will go over your head, and you'll be safe in that little trench.
Yeah, it's the same thing they tell you with tornadoes.
And like, I would go and just sit there in my room and be like, okay, there's a big ditch line outside. So if I ever hear a big explosion, I can just go run and hide out there. And I'd had these nightmares of me as a kid hearing an explosion, running and jumping, hiding down in the trench, and the explosion coming the other direction, like basically coming up trench and killing me. Like that's how traumatic this crap was. I mean, I can kind of understand why they're like,
Close the shelter down.
the kids are a little stressed. We need to shut the shelter
The
down.
kids are a little stressed. Let's just shut it all down, and they're gonna die anyway.
Right.
I mean, really, I kind of think that that's what the mentality was in the end. It was like, it doesn't matter. No one wants to survive. Trust me, it's not going to be
Yeah.
pretty. Again, if you ever played Fallout, you understand that.
Yeah. You come out and you've got mutant bears and werepigs and
well, there's radioactive bears running around now, Joe.
yeah, well, you have a valid point, my friend. That is a very valid point.
Pretty sure we proved that there's radioactive bears still running around, already. So I can imagine what would happen after they hit with a little bit of nuclear fallout, man.
Right?
Yogwai right there.
Yep,
but
the Yogwai.
Yeah. But for real, a lot of these bases, man, they were born out of the Cold War.
Yeah.
They were either born out of the Cold War or they were born as a result of the Cold War.
And normally when the government builds something, they're not just going to abandon it and leave it. Like, especially something of this sort of structure, if for nothing else, it'll be storage. So what do you think here to just kind of settle us out? Because we've gone deep into the conspiracy side. We showed and presented the facts. What's your take on some of the more bizarre?
I think a lot of it's just complete fantasy. I think, and I know you're not expecting me to say that, but I think a lot of it's just complete fantasy. I don't necessarily believe that there's these secret underground human alien bases. Aliens hate humans. They have nothing in common with with us at all. They I'm trying to answer this the best way I can. They are the teachers and we are the students. So no, I don't see that. I don't think the Greys are here to destroy mankind. And here's why I say that. Um, they could have did it. They could have did it at any point in the last few thousands of years. They could have just snapped their fingers and we would be gone. If they were here to kill us, guys, we wouldn't be here. So
yeah, and we've said that before on the show. Like if
now
that was the case, we'd been dead by now.
likewise, I'll say this again. If there's another potential adversary out there of um, our watchers, then we might be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So I could see that, but and they didn't really say that. Like Schneider never mentioned that. That's not part of his thing. So I think he was a little. I think he was just playing into a lot of the already conspiracy theories and where things were going. And then Commander X just pushed it over the top with those books. You know, I mean, way over the top, and people believe it. And let's be honest, Joe, there are people right now who just don't want to believe anything. That's how come flat Earth theory has its pull. That's how come the anti-creationism movement got started. It's because people don't want to believe anything. I don't care what you believe. I really don't care what you believe. But when you start forcing stuff at people, kind of like this, and you know it's true, and you don't know it's true, guys. You believe me, you don't know it's true. I mean, none of us know any of this stuff's true, right?
Right.
So, do I think it's real? I don't really think it's real. Do I think there's aliens? Yeah, sure. I mean, call them what you want. I don't think they're aliens. I just think they're something else that we don't have a name for. I think we've been working on that for a while now.
Yeah, we've been trying to come up with a solution for that.
There's a solution to this. We just can't figure it out yet. Maybe that's our mission. I don't know, but yeah, man. So I don't know. What do you think about the whole mess?
Well, being former military, we know a lot of these bases are legitimate. We know they're real.
Yeah.
What goes on underground is what goes on underground.
It's like
I'm
Vegas.
Not sure.
Is that what you're saying?
What is it?
It's like Vegas. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. And the it's underground for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And we're dealing with some stuff here that we really can't grasp. We're not in charge. We're not like the average person. I'll say we're not like, we don't have a say in what we're told. There's possibility, like it beyond. I have no doubt in my mind that there are recovered craft in some of these underground places. I believe that. I really do think there are. And then aliens, who knows? Who knows? I think it's weird being the guy on the other side of the couch on this one, because it just that's who knows? I can't say for certain on any of it. Schneider's case was just it got crazy. It got to be too much. Like a little bit here and there you can buy, but some like there's just a lot. And then the way David Icke grabbed in and took off with a lot of the stuff with the reptilians and whatnot, it just really got crazy. And how do we know that there's not? We don't. We can't say that there's not, but we can't say there are. That's the weird conundrum we find ourselves in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's an uncomfortable place to be, because I do firmly believe that we have had contact. Anybody who's listened to the show long enough knows that, like, I'm a huge fan of the Valiant Thor story.
Yeah.
That our government has had contact with entities that are beyond us,
right,
beyond this planet, and for whatever reason, it's not been widely talked about.
Mm-mm. No, it hasn't.
Could that be because there was a secret deal and a secret partnership, and they decided to move these odd-looking people into these bases and say, "Here, look, we're going to put you here. That way, nobody sees you."
Maybe.
Or is it one of those things like, "Hey, look, we have a deal. You can come do this stuff, work here, do the things you need to do, mine stuff, whatever. And these bases are going to be kind of your little hub that you can hang out in.
See, I could go for that, but I just don't buy the whole battle.
Yeah, no, that battle thing is it's hard to swallow that.
You know what's really crazy though is maybe that's what that story was for. Maybe that story was to detract from the reality of it. Maybe there was a pact signed between us and some visitors. You know.
And this battle actually could have happened for him to see.
No,
and then afterwards, like they're like, "Oh, sorry, Jeff. I didn't mean to hit you with that. I thought I had it set to stun. I'm so sorry."
No, I mean, like maybe the absurdity of all this is part of the last sandwich. Like the bit of truth may be that there was actually contact and that it actually, there was some kind of a agreement made for technologies. And, just in case that ever gets out, let's just throw this crazy yarn out there that is pure science fiction laden and just throw the truth in the middle of it. No one will ever believe it because it's just too outlandish.
Or just go full Holloman Landing, Close Encounters of the Third Kind with it.
Right. That's it. Exactly.
That's it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That truth is in there. It's just so buried, and it may not be buried. It may be right there in front of our face. It's just surrounded by all this other stuff that's just made up. And I think that's where we end up with these deep underground bases. We know they exist.
We get that with everything too.
Yeah.
We get that because people want to fill in the blanks. They don't like having mystery.
They don't.
They don't like having something that they have to just say, I don't know. Humanity, for whatever reason, is really uncomfortable saying, I don't know.
I don't know.
Those three words, other than I love you, are some of probably the most difficult words that you can get out of your mouth in front of people.
I think you're right. And I think we cut some flack every now and again for saying we don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not going to tell you that I know. I do not know. All I know is there's something there. I'll say it again. It may make you mad. It may make you feel bad, but there's something there. I don't know what it is. Insert belief system here.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the biggest part of this. I think it kind of wraps us up.
Yep.
And
I'd like to hear what our people think. Our people. Not our fans. Our people. You may not be, but our people.
You weirdos out there.
No, you people.
Sound off below, down in the comments. We want to hear what you think about this because it is one of those things where it's a very contentious topic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And there are people who vehemently
they'll fight you over it.
Yes, they'll slash your tires and but you've got to take an approach at this that is more level. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of trying to fill in the gaps, just fill it in with I don't know. We have these data points and the rest I'm not sure. We're still working on. So sound off in the comments, guys. We want to know what you think. Shoot us an email over at wildandweirdwv.com. You can hit the contact us tab or the report a sighting tab, and you can tell us what you think there. If you've seen weird objects coming out of a mountain or out of what you assume to be a deep underground base, go to wildandweirdwv.com and hit the report a sighting tab. We want to hear about it. We want to know what you saw. We believe you saw something and encountered something. And as always, go over and follow and subscribe Hellbent Holler on YouTube. That is Jessi's personal channel over there. You can follow Jessi and Joe's antics as they travel through the forest looking for unexplained phenomena, and also tune in to their weekly podcast, Dark Dive. And it's a great show. I love watching their podcast. They cover some really, really, really good stuff. All right, remember, guys, like, share, and subscribe. It is a simple, quick action that you guys can do on your side that has a huge implication for us. It helps us out tremendously. And you want to be on board and watching when we launch the new upgrades for the show. It's the biggest upgrades that we've put out there so far for our listeners. And again, this is free for you. We're making sure that the show stays free. All of our content will remain free for you guys. We're just going to be upping the ante and increasing your viewing and listening pleasures. So, with that said,
let's have those cities. I want to hear.
Oh,
who's
I
on top?
Forgot. I did. I almost forgot, man. Okay, yeah. So the cities. I mean, guys.
Let's blow through it.
We need help. We need some help, y'all, because these cities. I'm just getting concerned.
Let's do the U.S. first.
We're gonna do the U.S. first.
City number 3.
City, starting off with city number. Well, no, we'll do the global. We'll do global first.
Okay, let's do global.
Global first. Starting off in the number 3 position, you got Canada, the UK, and obviously the United States. Woot woot. Then we have close runner-up is Australia there, trailing right behind Canada. Germany, come on, guys. Y'all got to get with it. You're almost there. You guys can take number 4 position any day now. Into the cities.
You look concerned about these cities,
man.
My friend. Why don't we do a recap previously on Wild and Weird Radio?
On Wild and Weird Radio, the cities. We had a couple weeks there where Pittsburgh was reigning champion.
Right, after the episode with
after the episode with Stan, and you guys you're still up there. You're still doing good. Philadelphia, you're right behind Pittsburgh.
I like me a cheesesteak.
Seattle, Washington, you guys are always on the leaderboard. You guys were number 1 there before Pittsburgh knocked you off, but oh boy, when Washington D.C. came to town.
Oh, after the Men in Black episode.
After the Men in Black episode.
Coincidentally, I'm sure.
DC has not been off the number 1 position.
Okay. So you're saying 3 weeks in a row.
3 weeks in a row. You guys now are at 3% of total listenership. Like, you guys in DC are really either fans of the show or the government is going to shut down the show. 1 or 2. I can't figure out which it is yet. Oh man.
Oh, that's great. I'm sure there are worse shows than this one, Joe. We're okay.
We're good. We're good. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get recruited.
We might get recruited. We could be part of the.
We are ambassadors of the paranormal, after all.
We are. We absolutely are. We could be part of the disclosure campaign.
Yep, absolutely.
And, that'd be fun. I mean,
would you sell out? I mean, I'm wondering, would you sell out like that? Because everyone's like, oh, Louis Elizondo, he sold out. Would you sell out? I mean, dude, that's a good question.
Have you seen the paycheck that comes with that sellout? I've been a government employee before. Yes, as a matter of fact, I 100% would. I would. I remember what government pay was, and it was good.
There you go. There you go. So
yes, you guys can. If you're hiring, just saying, you guys are listening enough. If you're hiring, a wink, I'll don a nice black Armani suit and a bowler cap. I'm down with it.
Yeah, there you go. That's what we'll do. And we can put up some, some grainy video every now and again that you guys send us. We can do that. Yes.
I'll do it.
All right.
Hands down.
All right. So let's see what happens next week.
Just saying, our resume's out there, guys. All you got to do is pick up that phone. Give us a shout. Emails, wildandweirdwv@gmail.com. Remember that. Just put in the header, MIB.
Application.
Well, guys, there you have it. Somebody please knock Washington, D.C. off the polling position. I mean, it's going to be hard because they've got 2% of the entire.
I don't see it happening.
It's a lot.
I do not see it happening.
It's going to be hard.
I'd like to hear.
Really hard.
We've got so many listeners in DC. I would like to hear some stories from our listeners in DC.
I would too. Yeah, if you guys are some of the listeners in DC, give us a shout for real.
Yeah, I want to hear some of your stories, sightings. I know there were some sightings recently in the DC area. I want to hear about those. So yeah, call in the show. You can't call in yet. Almost let that go.
Hey, if they're the MIB, they just call in anyway.
That's
our phone would ring, and there it is.
Good. There it is. Oh, no, wait. Oh, that's a satellite. It's a satellite tracker. It's okay. It scared me for a second there.
All right, guys, it has been a fun conversation. Thanks for hanging out with us and sticking around to the end of the episode. As always, I'm Joe. That's Ron. Jessi's out on assignment. Hopefully she doesn't get eaten by a dog man or picked up by some weird lights. So until next time, stay wild and weird, everybody.
Your audio just completely dropped out during the remember section.
Seriously?
Yeah, this is like someone turned the volume down.